Another way to participate in the compare and contrast lesson is we'd like you to take part in visiting a classroom that's using the compare and contrast strategy. So welcome to Hannah Compton's 5th grade elementary school classroom in Warren County. They're engaged in the lesson at looking at the impact of renewable and non-renewable energy sources. Before we move into the heart of our compare and contrast lesson, we use an engaging hook, a form of comparison we call analogy. We presented the students with 2 toys, one a wind-up toy, the other a battery-operated toy. So, who do you think is called renewable, and who do you think is called non-renewable? Talk to your neighbor, decide. The first phase of the compare and contrast strategy is description. The goal in this phase is to help students describe each item carefully before comparing the items. What we're going to read more about is about renewable and non-renewable energy, and we're going to use our compare and contrast strategy. And in the first phase of the compare and contrast strategy is we're going to use criteria to describe each of the items that we're looking at. And the criteria we're going to use when you read your piece is what are the uses for non-renewable and renewable? What are the different forms of energy for non-renewable and renewable? What are the benefits of using non-renewable, and what are the benefits of renewable energy? And what are some of the challenges we face in using both those kinds of energy? Jason, can you begin reading about non-renewable energy?
Fossil fuels are non-renewable, which means that their supplies are limited. Coal, oil, and natural gas are examples of fossil fuels.
We then asked students to use the criteria we provided to collect information from the 2 texts on renewable and non-renewable energy sources. Hannah, what's something that you have for non-renewable in terms of uses?
Building materials.
How about forms of non-renewable energy? Faith, what's something that you have?
Coal.
To deepen our students' understanding of critical vocabulary, I chose to use a vocabulary strategy called non-linguistic representation to describe the greenhouse effect. And the carbon dioxide forms a cloud on top of the Earth's atmosphere. So when the sun's heat rays comes into the Earth, instead of bouncing back and leaving the Earth. The second phase is comparison. The goal in this phase is to help students compare and contrast the items using a visual organizer. Let's begin with differences. What's a difference that you would say about non-renewable energy that's different than renewable? Hannah?
It's bad for the earth.
Okay, so it's bad for the earth. And we talked about global warming and the pollution that it might cause. Good. Any other differences between non-renewable? Paige?
Non-renewable is limited. The sources are limited.
The sources of the energy, the supply, is limited. Okay, how about renewable energy? Well, how about renewable energy? What's the difference between renewable energy and non-renewable? Faith?
It's not limited.
So while these sources, it's not limited, and if we can get the technology to make use of it, then we have an endless supply. Good. What's another difference? Yeah.
It's beautiful here.
And it would benefit the earth. Does not do harm to the environment. How about similarities? Yeah.
They both come from the earth.
Okay, they both come from the earth. Faith?
They both involve transportation.
Okay, cars, vehicles, planes, transportation. The third phase is conclusion. The goal in this phase is to use questions to deepen student thinking. We asked students if, in fact, they thought Renewable and non-renewable energy were more like each other or different than each other. How many people here say they're more like each other? Raise your hand. How many people here think they're more different than each other? Most of the students agreed that the two sources of energy were significantly different, but there were some students who thought they were somewhat the same.